Today, we're going to talk about stopping cravings, understanding emotions, and those things that we do that we're just so frustrated. Why do we keep doing them? Well, I'm Dr. Laurie Marbas, and I am a board certified family and lifestyle medicine physician licensed in all 50 states to see patients across the country. And today, I'm going to share some insights I've had with you when working with not only patients, but myself, and understanding a very powerful technique that will help you understand cravings, emotions, and these different feelings and urges that we have, and actually how to use them as your friend to actually make them finally go away and understand. Instead of trying to fight them, we're going to actually embrace them. I know it sounds crazy, but hang on and let me get started. So, first of all, I know we've all been there, right? So, there's that moment when you're eating a tub of ice cream and you're halfway through and you're like, how did this happen? Where did this come from? Or maybe it's drinking that soda that you were sworn off sugar, or maybe you're smoking cigarettes. And you're like, what is this? Or maybe you snap at a loved one, right? And you regret it a second later. You're like, where did that come from? This emotional outburst. Well, it's really not a matter of shaming ourselves or looking at ourselves and judging, right? That just makes it worse, right? We feel bad and it builds it upon it almost like it almost feeds whatever that was that you were judging or thinking about. The key to breaking these habits, I almost say breaking, but I would say dismantling is a better word, or disintegrating or allowing them to dissolve, is not willpower. It's not your willpower. It's not fighting. It's not trying to make yourself feel worse and understand why you're a useless loser, blah blah blah. Yeah, see, even just the words can't even tumble out of my mouth correctly. But it's really is using the reflection, and reflection is much more than what I want you to think of. It's just not about thinking. We're actually going to have a strategy to look at our emotions and our thoughts and cravings and impulses as messengers, right? We're going to relook at this and reestablish a relationship. So come on a journey with me, and I want you to imagine that someone is knocking on your door, and that's an emotion that's maybe bubbling up, or a craving that you're feeling overwhelmed with, or maybe it's an instant judgment about someone, that you see someone, or maybe someone's cut you off on the highway and you suddenly blurt out something, or you feel the urge to blurt out something, or use hand gestures. um, but instead, I want you to imagine this as someone knocking the door, and you look through the little peephole and you don't see anyone, but the knocking gets louder because now you're trying to ignore it, right? Or you're just trying to, like, oh, this is just a solicitor, go away. But the louder it gets louder and louder, right? So if you ignore it, it grows, right? In the anxiety about what's going on the other side of that door. Instead of doing that, I want you to think about doing something a little bit different. We're going to open the door and look and see what's in front of us. So, but before we get on that, let me just talk a little bit about the science, and then I'll walk you through my scenario of how we can deal with this. So, first of all, why should we reflect on emotions and cravings in the first place, right? So, really, understanding and reflecting on our internal experiences can be a really powerful tool for behavior change, right? When we treat our emotions and cravings as separate from ourselves, our true selves, we really gain the ability to observe and analyze without an immediate reaction. And this is what I would call mindfulness, right? So, this mindfulness, or bringing the thinking brain on board, can really help us stop reacting impulsively and start making more conscious decisions. Now, it doesn't mean that that's a bad part of you, the emotion or the craving. It's there because of a reason, right? It didn't just come out of sheer nowhere, right? There was a reason that this was developed, and that's what we're going to utilize. So, what is the science behind it? So, research shows that mindfulness and meditation can really improve what we call emotional regulation, right? It reduces impulsive behaviors like drug abuse by increasing certain parts of the brain. I always talk about that 3-pound organ between your ears. Those regions of the brain that are associated with self-control, like the anterior cingulate cortex and your prefrontal cortex, that part of the thinking brain. And then there's other studies that show that reflecting on cravings using cognitive reappraisal techniques can significantly reduce the urge to engage in addictive behaviors. So there's absolute science behind what I'm recommending. And I've absolutely seen this work with other patients by observing why they be able to change behaviors. I've seen it in myself. I certainly feel I've grown as a human, being able to experience life in a much more fulfilling and rewarding way by approaching life like this, right? Instead of looking as why is this always happening to me and fighting it and am I a victim of these circumstances, instead of saying, what is life trying to share with me right now? Because these circumstances continue to, you know, reappear in my life. There must be some message that I'm missing. So when we open ourselves to understanding that life is presenting us opportunities for growth and understanding, that is the place where we see change and life begins to unfold in a different pattern, right? The journey is different because we stop doing the same things. We stop reacting, right? So instead of going, 1 degree this way, we're just changing how we're interacting with those messages and those things, circumstances, just 1 degree. And over time, what you'll see is you end up in a different place. And so I invite you to try this 3-step approach to looking at your emotions and cravings as messages. Okay, so number 1, I want you to imagine that each emotion, thought, and craving is like a crying infant. If you're a parent, you understand. If you're not a parent, but maybe you had some nieces and nephews, or maybe you've had a new puppy or a kitten that cries and you're trying to figure out what's going on. In the beginning, you feel like you don't know what you're doing. You don't have the skills quite yet to figure out, but it doesn't take long because with repetition and compassion and consistency, you learn to decipher what's going on, right? There's like you're building upon your intuition, right? You're beginning to understand where this is coming from, but you have to react with compassion and gentleness and patience. When you react compulsively with anger and frustration and just, why is this happening to me? That's where these will continue to come back to you. So I would ask you to take a pause and just be open to the idea that there might be a different and more proactive approach that's going to end up with a different outcome for you, one that you are going to be much more delighted by. So let's think about this. So just as you would care for like a baby with love and compassion, you really shouldn't approach your internal experiences kind of with the same gentleness, right? Because if you've ever held a baby in that beginning, you're just like, it's like this little football. I remember when we had our first child, she's 30 now, and we brought her home. I was like, they let us leave the hospital with this small little creature. Oh my goodness, we don't know what we're doing. We are young people who can barely take care of ourselves. I mean, we figured it out. She was no worse for the wear. I hope not. But that's the kind of right when we first were like, hold on, I'll never forget my husband holding. It's like, what do I do with this little thing, right? It's the same idea. When it was crying, he would really get stressed out, right? So he's like, take the baby. I don't know what to do. But instead, just embrace that baby, right? Understand that this is just a baby that's trying to tell you there's something that needs to be addressed. That's all those are, the emotions, the cravings, even anger, jealousy, frustration, impatience. All of those are messages like the crying infant, okay? So remember, these are signals or messages from your body and mind asking for that attention and care. So, what can you do when you see the baby? You open the door and there's a crying baby at your doorstep and you go to pick it up. Well, you pause and listen, number 1, right? When you experience a strong emotion or craving, take a moment to pause and listen. And, what is this feeling trying to tell you? Next, just ask some compassionate questions. That's the really important word, compassion. Approach your feelings with curiosity and compassion, just like you would a small child. When you ask yourself, what do I need right now? Am I stressed? Am I lonely? Am I hungry? Am I tired? And step 2 is really deciphering the message, right? So just as you would investigate why the baby is crying, you need to lovingly and compassionately decipher the origins of your emotions and cravings. That process really helps you understand the true cause and find the appropriate ways to address them. So here's some steps. Excuse me. 1 is identify the cause, right? So reflect on the possible causes of your emotion or craving. Are you reflecting on a specific event or is there an unmet need, right? And why are you short with your loved one coming home from work? Maybe you just had an unpleasant discussion with your boss, or you had an unpleasant email, or someone cut you off the road, or maybe you had to skip lunch because of a meeting. Maybe you're hungry or tired. Reflect upon that, right? So what is that cause of that? And then I am a huge fan of journaling. You may have spurts of journaling in your life, but journaling on a regular basis, especially when you're trying to reflect and understand, is really helpful because you can use that as clues. Sometimes you will write something in a moment that you can reflect upon later when you're in a quiet and still place that will give you the answers that you're looking for. And so just writing down those reflections will help you understand, like I said, the patterns and the triggers of those. You can almost think of it as a habit, right? You have this trigger or prompt that causes this emotion, which or urge or craving, and then you're trying to figure out what it is that caused it, right? So that it's almost like, I hate to use the reward word, but maybe it's the unmet need, right? That unmet need, until that unmet need is going to be fulfilled, it's going to get louder and louder. And what it's trying to do is pull you into understanding what's going on here. So just trying to decipher that message is really important. Next is respond with compassionate action. So once you decipher the message, respond with actions that address the underlying cause. If you're tired, get some rest. If you're hungry, eat a healthy snack, not a ultra processed snack, right? Really think about, instead of acting impulsively, choose a mindful response, right? That nurtures your well-being and those around you. Is this leading you towards a more calm and peaceful solution, or is it going to make more strife and um, unease by a different action? So think about the secondary consequences, right? And it just takes a second, right? Just like, if I choose to eat these French fries or ice cream, how am I going to feel later? You're not going to feel well, right? But if you choose to maybe eat an apple or an orange or banana because you're hungry, that is a better decision. You'll feel better about yourself, and your body will be thanking you too. So some action steps here is: one, meet the need. If your craving or emotion stems from a physical need, like I'm saying, such as hunger or fatigue, address it directly. Like I said, take a snack or take a rest. Or if it's an emotion, soothe the emotion. So if it's emotional, find healthy ways to soothe yourself. Practice deep breathing. Someone mentioned in a comment earlier that deep breathing actually ignited stress, which is concerning, right? So find some other way. Is it just grounding your feet, looking at a peaceful scene or a picture, or imagining yourself somewhere? Lots of different ways. You can take a walk in nature, talk to a friend, journal, lots of different ways you can address the emotion. And so finally, by treating your emotions and your thoughts and your cravings as messages to be deciphered, can really help you develop a deeper understanding of yourself and your needs. This kind of compassionate approach really allows you to respond mindfully and rather than reacting impulsively, right? And it really just paves the way for a healthier behaviors and really allows you to break the bad habits because those needs have been met. And what you'll find is that they just kind of dissolve, right? They just disintegrate over time. But it is like a skill set, right? You don't just walk into life knowing how to mother a crying infant or father a crying infant. You're just going to have to take time to understand these internal experiences need to be addressed with love and compassion. They're not you. They don't need to be judged or ignored, because the knocking on the door will just continue to get louder, right? So the habits are such an important piece of our lives. It's part of my 5-step framework that I utilize with people to help them gain healthy habits and lose weight and do other things. So I do have a free masterclass. If you're interested, the link is in the bio or below. It's called the 5 Steps to Master Metabolism and Lose Weight. And I address all sorts of things, but habits is a big one. Mindfulness is the number one habit I encourage people to build. And I'd love to see you in my masterclass. So feel free to do that. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. I appreciate you being here, and always try to make your time worth it. Hopefully give you some insight or new inspiration. Comment below, share this video. I read everything. I try to respond to as many as I can. I really do appreciate your time. And as always, I'm sending gratitude and joy, love, peace, and healing to you and your loved ones, because we all need more of that in this world. So I hope you have a blessed day. And again, thanks for spending time with me. Have a great one.